What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot of stuff to talk about with you today. We have a lot of stuff to cover as we have some more severe weather that is on the way for Texas, for parts of the Great Plains, and even into parts of the Midwest, folks. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it as we are looking at the risks that are associated with this. So with that being said, let's start with the Storm Prediction Center right here. We have that pulled up for you right about here. We're going to go ahead and move this over so that way you guys can see it a little bit better. But here's what we have going on at this current point in time. We have a slight risk for day 3 from pretty much Illinois all the way down to Texas near Austin. And we also, now that we're going to go back a little bit, we're going to go ahead. We have a day 2 slight risk in effect for parts of Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri, with Kansas City right in the middle smack with that. So we're going to go ahead and start with this first before we get to the day 3 risk right here. And what do we have going on? Our tornado risk is at a 5%, which means we have a 5% risk of a tornado happening within 25 miles of a point. We have a wind risk of 15%, which once again has Kansas City right in the middle of that, which means we have a 15% risk of damaging wind gusts of 50 knots or 60 miles per hour or higher happening within 25 miles of a point, and hail, which appears to be the main threat for tomorrow, for especially the Kansas City metropolitan area. We're looking at 15% risk with a hatched area, which indicates there's a 15% risk of 2-inch in diameter hail or larger happening within 25 miles of a point. So here's what we have going on. Here's the quick summary that we have. Severe thunderstorms are capable of producing very large hail and a tornado or two possible across the lower Missouri Valley from Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday night. Here's a quick synopsis of it right here. Strong low-level moisture advection into the region will occur as surface dew points are forecast to rise into the 50s degree Fahrenheit, which for the temperature that we're looking at right here, if we can go ahead and pull this up for you right here, let's go ahead and adjust this just to give you a better understanding of kind of what I'm looking at right here. And we're going to go ahead and go to the Central Great Plains one right here. This is what we have pulled up. Here's the surface dew point temperature for tomorrow over here. Here's what we have going on. This is the next 24 hours. In fact, the NAM is actually going a little bit more aggressive. We're looking at upper 50s to lower 60s dew points across much of the area right there. Here's what we have. This is what we have going on. Yeah, there's plenty of moisture to kind of take that into account. What's the temperature in association with this? Yeah, with 61 dew point with like 65 degree temperatures, that's a very moist environment right there for severe thunderstorms. So we're going to have to pay attention to that as we continue to get that data coming in right there, and especially if we go ahead and show you the relative humidity as well. Yeah, there's a huge bubble that over here are parts of Kansas, well, not really Nebraska, but Kansas City, those areas that show really moist dew points going into this, like dew points cracking the 90s in association with those kind of that temperature to dew point ratio right there. So we're going to have to pay very close attention to that as we continue to get into more of it. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and go back to the SPC just to show you what we're kind of talking about right here. And this is what we have pulled up once again right here. Large-scale ascent attendant into the approaching shortwave trough coupled with low level convergence near the surface low and warm front are expected to provide the lift needed for convective initiation. Storm coverage prior to sunset remains uncertain, but it will increase during the evening near the warm front over northern Kansas eastward into the northern half of Missouri. And that's what we're kind of looking at right here. Storm coverage will likely increase into the overnight as warm air advection strengthens with tandem with a low-level jet. Primarily elevated storms capable of a large hail threat may extend as far east as northeast Missouri into west central Illinois, and that's why they have this risk going on all the way into Hannibal, Missouri, and parts of western Illinois over there. So that's what we have going on for tomorrow. For Thursday, things are looking really interesting. We have a 15% risk from northern Illinois to near the Chicago area, as a matter of fact, all the way down to near Austin, Texas, encapsulating over 17 million people in that risk area, with an additional 29 to almost 30 million people in the marginal risk, which includes Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, the western half of Indiana, the rest of Illinois, much of Iowa, Missouri, and the rest of the states that are over here, including Louisiana, Arkansas, those areas right there. So that's what we have in the middle smack for this. There's like two areas of center areas right there. One of them is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Another one's near the Quad Cities in Iowa and Illinois right here. Probabilistic, we have a 15% risk, but there's two hatched areas right there. One in part of the Midwest and parts of Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, and one in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma right there. And here's what we're looking at right here. This is a 15% risk of significant severe weather, or significantly severe weather, which is essentially means there's a probability of either 2-inch hail, 65 knot or 75 mile per hour wind gusts, or strong tornadoes happening within 25 miles of a point. We're gonna get more information as we continue to get to you, but this is what the SPC is going for at this current point in time, considering some of the CAPE values that some of the models are showing. Honestly, that's a rather interesting situation to take a look at. And we'll get to the Cape in just a second right here. Here's the summary. Strong to severe storms are possible across a large area from the middle Mississippi Valley into eastern Oklahoma, East Texas, and the lower Mississippi Valley on Thursday. Here's what we have going on for the southern Iowa and the Illinois region. Uppers 50s dew points are expected south of the warm front throughout the period. Despite this somewhat modest low-level moisture, the moderate to strong buoyancy is still anticipated, with temperatures climbing into the lower 70s, supported by cold mid-level temperatures, resulting in steep mid-level lapse rates. Essentially, what that mumbo-jumbo means is that we're still looking at relatively warm temperatures, and we're still looking at good lapse rates, which essentially is how much this parcel is cooling per kilometer. For example, if you're looking at a parcel that's cooling at maybe like 6 degrees per kilometer, it's not going to be too good for thunderstorm initiation. But if you're looking at maybe 7 degrees per kilometer or 8 degrees per kilometer, now you're starting to get something. That's in an area that is known as conditionally unstable. What absolutely unstable lapse rates are relatively rare, and they have to exceed 9.8 degrees Celsius per kilometer, which we're obviously most likely not going to be having at this current point in time right there. There may be a tendency for storms to move north of the front over time, but enough residents in the warm sector is anticipated for some storms to reach maturity. Any mature supercells would be capable of all severe hazards, including tornadoes, strong wind gusts, and very large hail. This for eastern Oklahoma, East Texas, into Louisiana, and Arkansas, primarily into the Dallas area. That's where I'm most concerned about at this current point in time. The region during the afternoon, the region is expected to start initiation around 18Z or 1 o'clock Central Time across southern Oklahoma and northeastern Texas. The robust buoyancy, and there's moderate vertical wind shear associated with this. We're looking at a situation where we could see another area of maybe some supercells, some discrete storms. That's why there's this probabilistic risk over this area right there. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and hop up to the models right here, because you're probably saying, Patrick, you're talking about all this SPC mumbo jumbo, but you're not showing us the models. You're not showing us the data. You've been talking for 8 minutes and not really showing us that much. What's going to be going on? Well, I'm glad you asked, ladies and gentlemen, because here's what we have going on right here, and we're going to kind of use continental United States for this, just to kind of give you a better understanding of kind of like the grasp of what we're looking at. We'll start with the dew point temperatures. Here's what we have with the HRRR. The HRRR isn't particularly too far out, but it will be enough to give us a grasp of what we're looking at, maybe in the morning of this severe weather right here. And here's what we have at around 7 a.m. Central Time, maybe even 8 a.m. Eastern Time across much of these areas right here. We're looking at dew points around St. Louis, around 59, 60 degrees. But as you go further south, those dew point values do increase as we continue to look at it. By the time we get to the Dallas area, we're around 65 degrees Fahrenheit with that dew point temperature right there. Compare that to the temperature right there where in the DFW, we're looking at like maybe 66, 67, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Very moist environment, but keep in mind this is during the early morning right here, and this is just here to kind of show you the setup of what we're potentially looking at right here. And as time continues to go on, here's the wrap pulled up right here. The dew points do kind of increase or stay the same. They increase significantly in parts of the not the Great Plains, but the Midwest over here. Like here's what we have going on around 7 o'clock. By 1 o'clock, things do get interesting, and there is a very significant area of like 60 low to mid 60s dew points going on. with this which could potentially help fuel this severe thunderstorm initiation, as you do need moisture for thunderstorms to kind of get their act together. Here's what we have with the CAPE values right here. Here's the CAPE values as of 1 p.m. across a lot of these areas right here. The CAPE values are cracking 2,000 in a very large area where the severe storms are going to be going on, and there's not really that much of a cap to really hold this back. Really hold this back, excuse me. So that's another area of concern right there, because you have the CAPE right there, you have the available energy for you guys, and you don't have much of a cap to really hold it back, at least at this current point in time. It is going to be pretty capped throughout the morning. However, that cap is inevitably going to end up decreasing as the temperature continues to increase and as the dew point continues to increase as well. So we're going to have to pay very close attention to that area right there. And we have a few soundings that I want to take a look at just to show you what we're potentially looking at. This is for northeast Texas. There was CAPE when I plucked this sounding of around 4,000 joules per kilogram, which is pretty crazy in itself. And the fact that this is March 12th that we're talking about right here, well, it's even crazier when you think about it right there. Surface CAPE of 4,700 joules per kilogram. That is an insane amount of CAPE in itself right there. That's a pretty crazy amount of CAPE. Mean layer CAPE's around 3,900, but still a very large amount once all things are considered right there. And if we go ahead and show you the wind shear values, we're looking at around 18 knots of wind shear from surface to 1 kilometer, which isn't really great for tornado development, but surface to 6 kilometer is around 41 knots, so that's pretty decent for some supercell development to happen in that area right there. SRH value is cracking 100 across the board right there, which will be interesting to take a look at, and I'm a bit curious to see how this whole thing plays out. And again, this is still 2 days out. We don't really know everything that's going on, but still, it's going to be pretty interesting to take a look at once the data continues to come in. Here's what we have for Dallas, Fort Worth right here, and this is what I'm paying attention to. Surface-based CAPE around 3,200 joules per kilogram, mean layer CAPE of around 2,700. There is a little bit of a cap going on, especially in the elevated later, around minus 59 joules per kilogram right there, which is not too bad right there, and that might hold the line, but that's kind of the situation where I'm looking at with the loaded gun situation that we always keep talking about as meteorologists and meteorology students. And what I'm looking at right here with the loaded gun is essentially what it does, it kind of holds all the energy in and maximizes it, and then when it breaks, it'll break explosively. That's why it's called a loaded gun. And with the shear, I'm not very impressed with the shear, especially in the lower level. Surface to 1 kilometer is 11 knots. I'm not really that impressed with it right now. Surface to 6 kilometers is around 37 knots, which could help with some supercell development, but I'm not really that impressed with it going into it. And lastly, this is what we have pulled up for you for parts of Iowa, that northern area. This, in my opinion, could be a better favorability area for like supercells, maybe even a couple of tornadoes as we continue to take a look at it. Surface CAPE around 3,200, mean layer of around 2,900, plenty of energy to deal with. The lapse rate's also a little bit higher here than it is in the south, because we have 8.5, 8.8, and we still have about the same. It's about 8.8 degrees Celsius per kilometer, which that's a rather extreme lapse rate if you think about it. Right there. And then here's what we have. The shear's around 12 knots at 1 kilometer. If you want a tornado, I would like to see that go up maybe 5 to 10 more knots at the surface to 1 kilometer, although the surface to 6 kilometers at 57 knots, and that's going to be very indicative of potentially some supercell development as we continue to go into those upper levels right there. So this is all stuff we really need to kind of consider as time continues to go on. We're still 2 days out from this situation right there, but we are going to keep an eye on it for you on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we're closing the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps us out, helps us make more videos like these. The goal of this channel, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. And guys, I am back, and I'm going to be back reporting this severe weather stuff for the next few months. I have a bunch of stuff going on with a computer charger, everything like that. So, yeah, I do apologize for not being here for the last couple of weeks, but that's what's going on. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.